Nobody really plans on becoming a coffee person. It usually starts on a morning when your soul has left your body, somewhere around 7:13 a.m. You're standing in the kitchen looking like a Victorian ghost, and somebody hands you a mug and says, "This'll wake you up." You take one sip and immediately understand why people describe things as dark and bitter. It tastes like someone has boiled a leather shoe in a burnt saucepan and then whispered, "Enjoy." But you're tired, so you keep going. At first, coffee is basically dessert wearing a fake mustache. It arrives in giant cups full of milk, foam, syrup, and enough sugar to make a dentist faint through the phone. You're not drinking coffee so much as you're slowly eating a warm milkshake that happens to contain a tiny, suspicious amount of caffeine. If someone accidentally swapped the espresso for hot chocolate, you probably wouldn't notice until you were halfway through and wondering why you suddenly feel emotionally supported. Then one morning, something changes. You order the same drink you always get, and for the first time, it doesn't taste like punishment. It just tastes nice, not magical, not spiritual, just nice enough that your brain goes, "Oh no, we're doing this now." That's how it starts, quietly, one harmless cup at a time. Soon, coffee becomes part of your identity. You stop saying things like, "I'm a bit tired," and start saying, "I haven't had my coffee yet," as though your body is a broken forklift that refuses to operate without diesel. You begin to believe that without coffee, you are not a person, just a collection of bones and deadlines. Then comes the cafe phase. This is when you stop making coffee at home because apparently, coffee tastes better when it's been prepared by someone in an apron who looks like they've been awake since 4 a.m. and are somehow still more cheerful than you. You walk into cafes like you're entering a sacred temple. And don't forget the tiny biscuit they give you with the coffee. That biscuit becomes a life event. You hold it in your hand like it's a rare jewel. You don't even want it, but you're deeply moved by the gesture. It's the sort of biscuit that makes you think, "This place understands me." Then one day, you realize buying coffee every day is costing more than your electricity bill. So naturally, you decide the sensible solution is to become your own barista. This is where your kitchen begins its transformation. A coffee machine appears on the bench like a piece of industrial equipment smuggled in from a spaceship. Then comes the grinder, then the scales, then the little brush for cleaning the grinder, then the tamper, then the special beans that were apparently grown on a mountain by monks who only harvest them during a full moon. Your kitchen no longer looks like a home. It looks like a cafe that has been abandoned mid-shift by staff who all quit at once. Making one cup now takes 12 minutes and somehow creates enough mess to suggest you've been building a small bridge. There are coffee grounds on the bench, the floor, your shirt, and somehow in a drawer that was closed the entire time. You spend longer preparing the coffee than drinking it, and by the time you finally sit down with it, you're too exhausted to enjoy it properly. But that, yeah, doesn't matter because now you're committed. And then, without warning, you become dangerous. You become the sort of person who talks about coffee like you're describing a rare wine or a complicated breakup. You stare into the cup and say things like, "I'm getting notes of berries," while everyone else at the table is just trying to work out whether it tastes like coffee or not. You swirl it around thoughtfully as if you're about to solve a murder. You sniff it with the seriousness of a detective at a crime scene. At some point, you start looking down on instant coffee with the kind of contempt usually reserved for ancient curses. If someone offers you a spoonful of granules and hot water, you react like they've suggested cooking dinner in a toaster. You don't even mean to be snobby. It just happens. Coffee has changed you. You've become the sort of person who says, "I can taste the difference," seen and actually believes it. And then one morning, you wake up before your alarm, not because you're well rested, not because you're excited about the day, but because your brain has learned that somewhere in the kitchen, there is a warm mug waiting for you, like a reward from the universe. You shuffle toward it half alive, and suddenly the smell hits you. That smell, rich, warm, familiar, The smell that once seemed strange now feels like home. You stand there in the quiet before the day begins, holding the mug with both hands like you're warming yourself by a tiny personal sun. Outside, the world is still waking up. Inside, you've already started. And that first sip doesn't just wake you up anymore. It feels like the opening scene of your life. That's when you realize it was never really about the caffeine. It was the ritual, the pause, the little pocket of calm before everything gets loud, the excuse to stand still for a minute and pretend you're in control of your day. Coffee didn't just become a drink, it became a signal, a tiny ceremony that tells your brain, right then, let's do this. Of course, every now and then someone proudly announces they don't drink coffee at all. They say it with the confidence of a person who has never had to answer emails before sunrise. You look at them with polite admiration, the way you'd look at someone who claims they can survive on 3 hours of sleep and positive thinking. And deep down, you wonder how they're doing it. Because once coffee gets its hooks into you, there's no going back. Different brew, same main character.